I had a consult with our doctors yesterday evening, and he's going to have surgery to repair a torn ligament in his toe, and that's going to put him out for the year. I heard for Ray. He's battled through just some nicks all season, and I'm anxious for him to obviously be a part of this team one and continue to help us in the manner he can. He's a smart player, so he'll be like another coach on the field. So we heard for Ray, but excited for the guys that will get opportunities too. Obviously, Rocco and Patrick have been featured in our offense at this point. Jay Ziegler will also get some chances as well. So opportunity for those guys. We heard for Ray, but we're also excited to have him part of our team and help us move forward.
Teresa, go ahead.
Clark, as you prepare for this Georgia defense, your offense has shown some improvement from the opener, but as you prepare for Georgia, what's the thought? I mean, how do you look at trying to attack this? So you've got your run game going, but you look at this defense, they're second in the league, and they're looking pretty impressive even for an SEC defense. As a former defensive coordinator, what are your thoughts at this point?
Well, let me start, Teresa, by wishing you a happy belated birthday. I'm sorry this wasn't yesterday and we could have celebrated together.
Thank you.
Yeah. Look, first of all, I've got a ton of respect for Georgia's defense, their staff. They do a great job. I've been familiar with that operation. We spent some time with them when I was at Notre Dame, just collaborating, sharing thoughts. They do a great job. The defense is it's about creating negative plays. They do well controlling the line of scrimmage. They play aggressively, and they're multiple in their coverage concepts. And so there are challenges, but there are also opportunities. And I think finding ways to neutralize their front, finding ways to again separate the first level with the second level. And trying to design some space for us to get the ball to playmakers will all be a part of the formula. We also need to worry in design about the defense, but really worry in execution more about ourselves. And so I'm interested in seeing the Vanderbilt offense operate at its highest level. We haven't seen that yet. We've seen spurts of really good play, but we need to sustain that. And it doesn't matter who we're playing against. Again, our objective is to play at the highest level as a team. And so we will focus on them in design, but we will focus on us in execution and put our best foot forward on Saturday.
Thank you.
Chris Lee, go ahead.
Hey, Clark, you moved James Ziegler over to running back in camp just for depth issues. You don't have that many players. I think you've got maybe 4 scholarship running backs left, including him. Do you move somebody else over to that side of the ball to address your depth there at this point?
Not right now. That's not the plan. I think we feel good about what we do have there, and not necessarily looking to add bodies. Dylan Betts-Poly is another player that's available to us, and so we'll just we'll prepare the guys we have. We should have 3 good ones that have had game reps to this point, and that'll be enough for us to do what we need to do.
Robbie, go ahead.
Clark, since most of your staff came from outside the SEC, you actually did face Georgia somewhat recently in 2019. Can you take anything from that game in terms of knowing the type of schemes that you're going against and stuff like that, or is it just at this point the players and the personnel are so different that it kind of is not relevant?
They've had a coordinator change on offense since then. And so some of the schematics will be different. Defensively, they've stayed true to who they are. There's always some help and familiarity, but in large part, college football is about getting your team to line up and to play at its highest level. That's what we have to do. And so we'll spend certainly time on design around who they are, but as much time, particularly for where we are as a program, on our people being in good positions and playing at a high level to execute our systems.
Aria, go ahead.
Obviously, Rocco had some big runs on Saturday, and he'll need to play a bigger role going forward. What have you seen from him? Are you confident that he and Patrick Smith can kind of step into that role?
Well, whatever Rocco's, production's been on game day, Rocco's success is in his consistency in all areas. I mean, he's such a dependable worker. That's been evident since the, early months of my time here. He brings energy, he brings attention to detail, he brings effort, he brings a competitive spirit, and a work ethic that has allowed him to have the success when his number's been called. And so he'll rely on that moving forward as a guy that will be obviously featured in our offense. And he was on Saturday, and he handled that really well. There was some good design. There's some excellent blocking up front, but there were also some runs for him on Saturday where he created. And, that's because he's a good player. With Patrick, I mean, you have a dynamic athleticism. He's shifty. He's got explosive playmaking ability, and obviously he's got less experience, but is equally exciting to watch play. And so, he'll get more opportunities now. I'm sure he's really fired up about that. And, I think it's a chance for us to develop a really good player and hopefully for him to have success as well. So I think there's two unique styles there, and we're anxious to get him out there and see how we can best use him in complementary fashion to help us move the football.
Chris Lee, you have another?
Hey, Clark, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was in one of these Tuesday sessions, you had talked about sideline energy and demeanor. So excuse me if in the question I botched some of what might have been your words, but I think you had said that you had assigned some people to the task of, I think, creating some energy on the sidelines. I don't remember if that was players or coaches or how that broke down, but give us a little bit more about that, and how do you feel about how that's gone so far? And if I've said anything in the question there that's inaccurate, now I've answered it as opposed to the way it works out, feel free to correct me there.
Of course. No, that was coming out of the East Tennessee State game, heading into the Colorado State game. We just, what I've learned to this point in my role is that the more prescriptive I am, the better chance we have to become. And so the gap that is the unknown for a player that's in a new program that's developing an identity, it's my responsibility to kind of fill that gap and to be specific. And so what we learned in week one was that we needed a higher level of involvement on the sideline. That's both the guys that are playing, those are the guys that are awaiting rotation, it's the guys that are reserves, so that they're not necessarily one snap away, but they're there and they're dressed out. And then it's the non-dressed, and so we just made a decision as a program to be prescriptive with roles and responsibility. What part of our energy and enthusiasm, what part of our spirit does each one of those positions hold? And again, that's a work in progress, and it's not meant to, again, it's more about, filling the gap of the unknown. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, so let me be prescriptive to assign a task. And that could be sideline communication, that could be, ownership over our abnormal approach, or, the counterbalance to what would be, the natural human reaction to a negative play, right? Where most people, when they have a negative play or a negative set of plays where, you feel like momentum's against you, instinctively, you kind of go into ego protection. You put your guard up and you go into a shell. While in a competitive environment, in a team sport, we can't do that and expect to have success. And so East Tennessee State, there were a lot of guys that were pulling back as they experienced the adversity that playing Division I college football presents. Well, we need to have an abnormal approach in that moment, because as momentum turns against you, the sooner you can redirect the swing of the pendulum. If you can redirect into a mindset that allows you to go and do the next right thing the right way, you sooner turn the momentum back in your favor. And that's the point of all this, the sideline mechanics, the way we communicate, the roles and responsibilities, is just to be really prescriptive as we look to build our identity as a program. A year from now, 2 years from now, it'll be, it's just a part of our process. This is how we do what we do. But until we have enough traction to get to that point, my responsibility is to fill those gaps.
Aria, you have another?
I saw Ben Bresnahan was on the depth chart this week. Is he for sure to be back?
To say for sure going to be back, he is reintroduced into practice, and we are going to push him, in a return to play sequence. And I'm hopeful, and I think that he feels good. But we have to get through some training sessions before we make a decision on his availability.
Robbie?
Yeah, I have the same question about Justin Harris. Also saw that he was on there.
It's same. So Justin obviously has had a longer rehab process and has already, kind of gone through a return to play sequence. And so him being on the depth chart is indicating that he is now available for, full contact, full speed. And, he'll still be pushed this week. And whether, is he ready for 80 snaps? I mean, that's not what's indicated on the depth chart, but he is available.
Chris, you got another?
I do. Clark, you have rotated sometimes at guards. You have been through a couple of centers. And so in the last game, Hernandez started at center, and I think you went with Clemens and Cox most of the way inside. It looked like you got some better running lanes in that one compared to your first two. How did you evaluate that? How did you evaluate those three guys in particular as you looked at film?
Well, I was pleased with, on the whole, pleased with the push we got. I thought the design was there, and that's a credit to the offensive staff. And I thought at times the execution was there, and I felt like we played with a physical edge. And I was pleased. I think there's always, and again, I've said this before, this is kind of the illness of a coach is, it's always going to be, so now how do we take the next step? And there are some plays that are blocked up, sans, one block on the film that would help, drive momentum going in the second half. How do we sustain performance? How do we remain consistent over the course of 4 quarters? How do we pull from the reservoir of energy and effort and physical play that we had in the first half and apply it in the second half? And some of that is game experience too, right? I mean, some of that's, learning how to adapt and evolve with the game and to sustain over time. But we want to play longer and harder than the opponent, which means we should be open up run lanes in the fourth quarter just as well as the first.
Coach, that's all for today. We appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks to everyone. Good to see you.
Thanks.